Silver Crown by Robert C. O'Brien, Chapter 7, Otto the Wrecker. According to Webster's New Collegiate Dictionary, wrecker means one who searches for or works upon the wrecks of vessels, etc., as for rescue or for plunder. Ellen was awakened by a flock of crows sitting in a circle in a treetop high above her. They were talking. From having lived for many years in the country, Ellen knew that crows can say a great deal more than caw. That raucous cry, in fact, is only a warning signal. It means watch out, or in a different tone, help. But left to themselves on a quiet morning, crows will conduct whole conversations in quiet voices, talking one at a time. That is what these were doing now, and Ellen thought she could distinguish the leader crow setting forth the plans for the day. Anyway, it was a gentle way to wake up, and when Ellen moved, a squirrel scuttled up a tree a few feet away, darting around to the back side of the trunk to hide from her. Like most squirrels, he did not know how long his tail was, and left it sticking out, so she was able to watch that much of him all the way up until he vanished into the thick green pine needles. Above the needles the sun was shining, but down at the bottom of the forest only a few bright spears found their way, moving like slow searchlights across the ground as the sun rose higher. Ellen sat up. She was terribly thirsty. She was also hungry. But in a battle between thirst and hunger, thirst always wins. Her forehead was bruised where she had bumped the dashboard, and the ankle Mr. Gates had stepped on was sore and swollen a little. But mainly she was thirsty. Somewhere in the woods she thought there must be a brook, and suddenly the idea of a brook with cold water running over stones seemed like the most delicious thought she had ever had. It made her twice as thirsty as before, but it also occurred to her that a surer way to find water might be to find the highway again, because somewhere along the roadside, sooner or later, there would be a house where she could knock on the door and ask for a drink. She was sure she could find the road. Since leaving it, she had run uphill all the way to find it. She had merely to walk downhill. So she set off, keeping a sharp eye out for the brook, and another for Mr. Gates, though for some reason she felt certain he was really gone. She walked for perhaps 10 minutes, limping slightly, thinking about Mr. Gates. When she had seen the gun and the green hood, she had known immediately that he was the one who had shot the store manager and poor Officer Drogue. There was, she now realized, something about the way he moved that should have reminded her of that murderer immediately. But she had been so eager to get the ride to Kentucky that she had paid no attention. She wondered, too, about his knowing Aunt Sarah's name. Perhaps she had told him, but she did not think so. And then there was that strange thing Officer Drogue had said before he ran off. Another green hood. It all added up to a puzzle she could not solve. She saw no brook, and the road seemed farther away than she had thought. But suddenly, right in front of her, she saw something she recognized. It was not the road, but it was from the road. It was a stack of brown cardboard cartons piled neatly beside a very large tree trunk. And behind another trunk nearby stood another stack. They were, she was quite sure, some of the same cartons that had fallen out of the wrecked truck the night before. There must have been 10 or more of them piled up. But how had they gotten here? She walked over to one of the stacks and looked at the top carton. Stenciled in black letters on one end were the words, Blue Ridge Apple Juice, 1 dozen. Apple juice! She loved it, and right now she felt she could drink the whole box. She was pulling the carton off the pile when the thought struck her, it's not my apple juice, it belongs to somebody. I can't just take it. And then she thought, I'll just drink 1 bottle, and I'll wait here. When the owner comes, I'll pay him for it with my money. If the owner did not come soon, she could simply leave a quarter on top of the carton. That would surely be enough for 1 bottle. She lifted the heavy box to the ground and pulled the top open and took out a bottle. Sure enough, there was the juice, gurgling deliciously inside the brown glass. But how was she to get to the top off without a bottle opener? She picked up a stick and pried it, but the stick broke. She stood up and looked around for a better tool, a pointed rock maybe. Not 6 feet away, a small boy stood, barefooted, watching her, with wary brown eyes. In his hand he held a very large hunting knife. He held it out to her politely, handle first. He said, Here, open it with this. Is it yours? Yes, that is, it fell off a truck. When they hauled the truck away this morning, they left these boxes. But you can have some. Why didn't they take them? I don't know. I guess they were in the ditch where they couldn't see them. His eyes looked away. They were in a hurry to move the truck. Ellen took the knife and pried the top loose. She drained half the bottle without stopping. Gee, said the boy, you must be thirsty. I am. I've been thirsty ever since yesterday. Do you want some water? Water's better when you're thirsty. I know, I couldn't find any. I know where there's some. Where? Right up here. Come on. He led the way, and in a few steps, just out of sight of the boxes, they came to a large flat-topped boulder, over the top of which trickled the clearest, cleanest, coldest-looking spring in the world. It ran down the side of the rock into a tiny pool from which someone had raked away the pine needles, leaving a sparkling bed of rock and sand. She lay down to drink the icy water until she felt dizzy. You don't want to drink too fast when you're thirsty, the boy warned. I know, I'll stop now. What's your name? Otto! There was a man up on the hill last night chasing somebody. I know, he was chasing me. Did you hear him? No, I was asleep in bed. I saw his tracks. I saw yours, too. You were here all night? He really did not mean it as a question. He knew. Where'd the man go? He drove away, I guess. At least I heard his car. That's what I thought. I saw where he ran back to the road. He sure fell down a lot. He certainly seemed to know a great deal, considering how small he was. He was dressed in worn-out gray trousers, ragged at the ankles, patched at the knees, and a faded cotton flannel shirt which had once been blue plaid. His coal-black hair was cut straight all around, but except for his bare feet, which were stained brown, he looked clean and rather nice. Ellen liked him. How old are you? She asked. He looked embarrassed. About 8.5, I think. You mean you don't know? Ellen asked in amazement. Well, not exactly. My mother says I was born in the fall. She thinks maybe October, but she can't remember for sure. She's so old she forgets lots of things. But your birthday... Oh, I have a birthday, all right. Well, when is it? When we get stuff for a birthday cake in the fall, and then we have my birthday, she said patiently, as if he were explaining something simple to a simpleton. He clearly disliked the whole subject, so he changed it. What's your name? Ellen Carroll. How old are you? 10. My birthday was yesterday, she started to tell him about the crown, then decided against it, but felt her pocketbook to make sure it was still there. It was. What's in the pocketbook? Oh, things. Doesn't your father know when your birthday is? Ellen changed the subject back again. I don't have any father. Oh, I'm sorry, Ellen said. Did he die? No, he just left. We didn't care. We didn't like him anyway. We don't want him back. He stood up. I've got to take these boxes up to my house. All of them? Well, not all at once, patiently again. I carry one at a time. Where's your house? Up there, he pointed. About a mile. It takes all day to get a bunch like this up there. I got 11 this time, he had an afterthought. Are you lost? No, not really, but the truth was, Ellen realized for the first time she was lost. That is, I don't know where I am. Then you're lost. That's what being lost is, he added. Look, you better come with me. You can talk to my mother. When Ellen thought about it, she realized that she had little choice. She had lost her food and her road maps. She had no idea how far Mr. Gates had driven her, nor even really whether he had gone toward Kentucky at all. Otto's mother, being a grown-up, would know where she was and in which direction Kentucky lay. All right, I'll carry one of the boxes, she said. They set out. Ellen carried the carton of apple juice. Otto lifted another on his shoulder. It said, dried split peas, 2 pounds, 1 dozen. Both boxes were heavy, but Otto carried his lightly. His small shoulders were straight and sturdy. But Ellen had trouble. In 100 yards or so, the hard cardboard surface of the carton had found a knuckle in her shoulder bone, and was rasping it unbearably. She put it down, switched to the other shoulder, and then trotted through the trees to catch up with Otto, who had not paused. In a few minutes, the same thing happened to the other shoulder. Then she tried carrying it like a baby in both arms, and that was better, except that unlike a baby, it was slippery and kept sliding down. Also, the extra weight made her sore ankle hurt. Finally, out of breath, she called, Can we stop and rest a minute? Otto stopped. To his credit, he was not scornful, but only slightly superior, and even a little sympathetic. Girls aren't very strong, he said, but mainly you aren't used to it. Some of the stuff I carry up is twice as heavy. Once I got an armchair. That was hard. Ellen could imagine him like an ant with a watermelon seed, toiling an armchair up the hill. I don't understand, she said, panting as she sank to the ground. Have other trucks wrecked here, too, before last night? All the time. Every 3-4 months, sometimes more. There's a bad grade with a bend that hides it. But that's so dangerous. Why don't they fix it? It's not really too dangerous. Nobody's ever got hurt yet. They all do the same thing. The front of the cab goes in the ditch. Front of the trailer goes in the air. Stuff falls out the back. Driver gets out and walks for help. But suppose the driver gets hurt. They never do. But he might. Then I guess I'd have to go for help. What about the boxes? Well, what about them? Do they always fall in the ditch? Otto looked evasive again. Well, usually, but it's not always boxes. One time it was live chickens in those wire cages. We still have some chickens left from that one. One time it was light bulbs. Hundreds and hundreds of them. We couldn't use them because we've got no electricity. Mostly they broke. Anyway, there was glass all over the road. But is it all right? I mean, are you allowed to just take them like this? Otto's tanned face turned dark red as if Ellen had hit him. He was suddenly furious. I've got to take them! I've got to! My mother is old and she hardly has any money. When I get bigger I can earn money, but I can't now, and in the winter I have to go to school anyway. If no trucks wreck, we don't have anything to eat. He stood up. Come on, I've got to get this home. I'm sorry, Ellen said. I didn't mean to make you feel bad. I think you're right, I really do. But Otto's anger was already gone. He helped her lift the carton of apple juice and then shouldered his own box. Come on, he said again. It's only a little way more. And in a few minutes they came to a dirt road, a wagon track leading up the hill from the highway. They rounded a bend into a clearing, and there Ellen saw a small, pretty white house surrounded by gardens, both flower and vegetable. In one of them, a tall woman in a long gray dress was working with a hoe. And that is the end of Chapter 7.